Hey, what's good, high performers? Welcome back to another episode of the Can't Believe I Made It podcast. I'm your host, Desi Abeda, and today I'm thrilled to introduce a brand new three-part series that's all about legal performance enhancers. Whether you're an athlete pushing your limits, an entrepreneur striving for peak mental performance, or simply someone looking to enhance your overall well-being, this series is a can't miss. Over the next 3 episodes, we're going to explore 3 powerful yet legal performance enhancing substances: creatine, caffeine, and carbohydrates. We'll dive deep into the science behind these supplements and these food products, uncover their benefits, and practical tips on how to incorporate them into your routine to boost both your body and your mind. In today's episode, we're kicking things off with one of the most researched and effective supplements out there, creatine. You might have heard of it being popular in the bodybuilding world, but creatine is so much more than just a muscle builder. It's a powerhouse for your cognitive health as well. So let's break down what creatine is, how it works, and how you can harness its benefits for your own performance. Ready to get started? Let's get it. Hey, what's up, people? Happy Monday. I'm kind of liking these Mentorship Monday episodes. I wanted to take a short break with everything that was going on in Rafa, and there's some really amazing people out there that are getting their voices amplified. And so as a podcast community, I wanted to take a short break. So I hope you guys are cool with that. But heading into this 3-part series that I just talked about, these are questions that I often get asked from clients, from athletes, from a numerous amount of people. And I felt like it would be super advantageous if we just went into short stints of breaking some things down that can not only help you from a fitness perspective, but also from a cognition perspective. Because when we focus in on legal performance enhancers, oftentimes people kind of give me an awkward face or an awkward look because we're so used to having a negative connotation when the topic of performance enhancement gets brought up. But there are some natural and some legal things that you could be doing. And so inside of this series, we're actually going to be breaking this down. So for today, the star is going to be creatine. And if I do my job effectively, you're going to walk away with today's episode understanding the role of creatine and what it does in the body, the science of how creatine not only enhances your physical performance, but also the role of creatine supplementation in your cognitive performance. And then lastly, how to properly utilize creatine for your own personal benefit. Because we're also going to try to reestablish your thought process behind creatine, because it's not just for bodybuilders. It's actually a massive game changer when we look at its potential with cognitive performance. We're going to touch on a little bit of the science as well. And for me, I just want to make sure that you're walking away with something tangible that you can begin doing literally today. So what exactly is creatine? At its core, creatine is a substance that's naturally found in all of our muscle cells. It's composed of 3 amino acids: arginine, glycine, and methionine. And while this might be a head turner, because usually you know that I'm always telling you, let's address foundation first. Let's address your nutrition coming from natural food sources, and then we'll talk about supplementation. Well, in this case, if you're heading into 163 and you're an OG, you already understand the value of creating that foundation. But when you supplement with creatine, you increase your muscles' phosphocreatine stores, which is going to help you produce more ATP, which is your body's primary energy carrier. Now, to put it in the most simplest of terms, we want to think of creatine as a rechargeable battery for your muscles. So when you go out and do any of those quick and intense activity type of exercises, your muscles are going to need energy fast. And creatine is actually going to help store and deliver that energy quickly so that you can keep going and keep going strong. And if I'm being honest, I don't necessarily put a lot of the clients or people that I'm working with on supplement regimens, but I will say that this is actually one that I'm constantly talking about in reference to adding this as a build into their program. Now, before we get into it from a supplement standpoint, I want to make sure that we understand the value of getting a supplement that is third-party tested, whether that be Informed Choice, Informed Sport, or even your NSF Certified for Sport certification, because those third-party labels are going to have systems in place that go in and test for overall banned substance in sport and in health. And so if you really think about it, it's your quality assurance stamp, so that whatever the supplement company is saying is inside of the bottle and in the amounts is correct, because you have a third-party accountability system. And why not put something in your body that you know has been checked and rechecked and has a massive process and something that is leveraged by dietitians, coaches, fitness coaches, and the people that are at the top of their game. It's exactly what we actually coach our athletes to understand, that if they are going to supplement an already balanced diet, fitness regimen, sleep hygiene regimen, then we want to look at things that are third party tested. Now, of course, you can get creatine from natural dietary sources, but they're not going to be in as readily available amounts as you what might find in a supplement. Now, we'll go over a possible supplement tactic that you can start implementing, but overall, if we look at things coming from natural foods, let's say if we talk about your red meat or even your seafood, they're going to give you minimal gain compared to what you can get from a supplement standpoint. So in most cases, they're going to give you about 1 to 2 grams inside of a serving of, let's say, for example, your red meat. Now you can eat plenty of portions of your red meat throughout the day to get to a point where we get into that functional dose that we're going to talk about. But here's where I think the supplemented form is something that I think would be super advantageous. Now, if we break down creatine's benefits from the standpoint of gaining muscle, there's a couple ways in which this is actually going to do that. The first thing that it's going to help you to do, it's going to help you to boost your workload. So in essence, it enables you to create total work or more volume in a single training session, which for any of us who have ever gone to the gym and felt like they didn't get everything that they needed out of that set or out of that session, creatine is something that can actually help you and has been proven to help you boost that volume or that workload, which for any of us, if we can tap into some sort of amplification inside of the gym, who is not going to sign up? I know I definitely am. The other thing that creatine is going to do, it's also going to help and aid in the process of muscle repair so that you can get to new muscle growth. Because your body's ability to not only recover from the workout, but to prepare itself for the next workout, that's when we look at progression. It's also going to raise some of your anabolic hormones. And so when we look at a rise in those types of hormones, we also know that there's going to be some muscle creation that follows. On top of that, you're also going to find that it actually increases your cell hydration. And because creatine is going to lift water in the body, it's actually going to provide some water inside of those muscle cells, which for any of us who have been on some sort of creatine regimen, you've probably heard that you hold on to more water, which gives you that apparent pump. This is something that is also going to play a massive role in muscle growth. The studies are still being acquired when it comes to this, but it's also been shown to reduce protein breakdown. And so if you're not breaking down proteins, there's going to be a bit more of an increase in total muscle mass. Again, they're still doing a lot more research on this, but it is something that is super interesting now. And then beyond that, it's also going to lower your protein myostatin levels, which is not a good thing when that starts to reduce. And so essentially what it's going to do is stunt the effort of what happens when there is elevated levels of protein myostatin. So in essence, it's just going to inhibit the process and allow you to create more muscle growth. Now, if we switch over to what is happening with creatine supplementation in the brain, these are things that are still in their preclinical studies, but nonetheless, I would say fairly exciting. Because like your muscles, your brain stores phosphocreatine and requires plenty of ATP, that energy production that I talked about earlier, in order to have what's known as optimal function. And I think for a lot of us, there's probably a lot of nuance when it comes to that, but we all know cognitively when we are operating at an optimal rate. Let's just call a spade a spade. And while a lot of these are still in their preclinical phases of studies, we are seeing that there is some benefit to some of the neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. We also know that it is playing a role in traumatic brain injuries. Talk to any sports dietitian who works in football. Creatine is always a part of the regimen when an athlete goes through concussion protocol. And even beyond that, this is something, shout out to Matt Frakes, strongest dietitian in America, head of nutrition at Louisiana State University. Let's go. He had just posted this and I read it and I was so interested in what their findings were. And so they looked at creatine on the role of sleep deprivation. And so what they did is they supplemented 0.3 grams per kilogram of creatine monohydrate. And what they found is that it actually mitigated the decline in cognitive performance typically associated with sleep deprivation, which for any of us, especially those who either are burning the candles on both ends, if you're a parent, if you're trying to get some sort of creative endeavor off and running, we all know that at times sleep deprivation is going to come and play a massive role. In fact, I just have right now I have a client who's going to be going on tour in Europe, and we just got done talking about the benefit of what happens with creatine supplementation as sleep deprivation comes as a measure. Because when we look at this study, to give you a little bit of background, is they took 15 healthy subjects during a 21-hour stint of sleep deprivation, which to me, as I'm talking this out with you, like it's crazy talk to me. I don't perform well to any degree if I'm going through that. And so essentially they slept, 3-4 hours, if you will. Inside of these findings, they actually revealed that creatine supplementation actually mitigated the decline in cognitive performance typically associated with overall sleep deprivation. And this is where just science in the body is so freaking dope. What they found from the metabolic analysis is that creatine enhanced cerebral energy capacity, which was evident because they were supplementing with creatine monohydrate, which boosted their phosphocreatine stores and maintained overall ATP levels, which is going to be that energy current, if you will, in your body. Which, if we look at it just from a very base level, if the brain is fed, and we're going to go into that here as we go along in our series, if the brain is fed properly, then its cognitive functions are going to work in a way that we need it to. And while this study is exciting, I'm not telling you to go out and to just rush and get yourself creatine when you have a shitty night of sleep, because if it's something that's continually happening, no supplement in the world is going to help you if you don't create a foundation of sunlight, the right foods, the right regularity with your sleep, and all the things that we've constantly talked about. And I'm not telling you to go out and to execute this dose. And so if we did the math real quick, so I'm 180 pounds, I'm going to convert that to kilograms. So that's going to be 81 kilos. So if we did that math, what it would look like times 0.35, it would be 28 essentially grams in that setting. Now, if you find yourself traveling and doing some other things that create overall sleep deprivation, I think it might be an opportunity to test it out and see how it works for you. But if we look at just a base level from a tactic perspective of what I think is considerably the functional dose, if you find yourself getting some sort of third-party creatine tested supplement, it's going to give you directions of taking it before a workout or after. But I'm going to just give you the baseline level. If you are someone who is interested in doing this, start with taking 5 grams a day. The consistency factor, just like with protein, I'm going to say this again, just like with protein, we need to replenish and create those phosphocreatine stores. And so 5 grams a day is usually that functional dose that most dietitians and most sports dietitians are constantly going to be talking about, and something that I continually do with my clients to this day. And so if you get nothing from this, I would say test it out. See how it works for you. Create a consistent measure of getting 5 grams a day. There are some different load-in specialties. Like some people like to do loads at 25. It's entirely up to you. I think at the very base level, you can start with 5 grams. And if you encounter some sleep deprivation, or just like last week for myself, I found myself traveling a ton, jumping time zones, test it out, see if it works for you. All right, now that we have a little bit of background on the performance benefits, if you will, of creatine and supplementing creatine monohydrate, stay tuned for next week as we discuss, I think is a dope topic. I love talking about caffeine because there are some watch outs and some call outs because most people over caffeinate, but I think it's a cool opportunity to have some mindful conversations, not only just about your overall caffeine intake, but being mindful about the dosage. So I'll catch you on the next one. Let's get it.